Welcome to the Hull York Medical School podcast. We're going to be speaking about the electives today, and I'm joined here with my colleagues as well. I'm one of the final year medical students here at the medical school. My name is Gracia, and I did my elective last summer. And would you guys like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my name's Cameron Hoyle. I'm one of the fifth year medical students as well. I did my elective also last year, and I did mine in Hull Royal. So it's really a pleasure to be talking about electives today.
Thank you very much. My name's Michael Gooseman, and I'm the Hull York Medical School electives lead. So it's my responsibility, as part of actually a wonderful team at HIMSS, to coordinate and allow students to have a good elective. And we'll go into a bit more of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So would you guys like to talk a bit more about what the elective is and what you guys did?
Yeah, an elective is a really enjoyable part of being a medical student, whichever medical school you join. It gives medical students a really good opportunity to spend sort of 6 to 8 weeks outside of medical school doing something that they want to do, getting a different experience you don't get in medical school, whether that be in the UK, in various different hospitals, or whether that be abroad, just getting that slightly different experience that you're not going to get on your normal clinical placements when you're having to, balance studying and going to placement. It gives that little bit of a break to try and do what you want to get out of that six to 8 weeks, yeah.
I think you put it extremely eloquently. It's basically a time, and I think I look back on my experience, and it's a time when you can really pick and enjoy a placement that is driven by you, is about you, and is to address the things that you want to do. So it really is chosen by yourselves, and we very much encourage that. And I'm sure as we talk about the specifics of what you can do, we'll go into what we try and encourage in terms of personal and professional development on it. So
yeah, the medical school has every medical school has a curriculum that you have to stick to pass your exams and gain that experience you need to become a doctor. But to have that period where you can do what you want and get what you want from an experience, really, I think just makes you a better doctor. Not necessarily through, knowing the stuff to pass exams. That's what the curriculum's for. It's more getting that experience to make you a better clinician and get those experiences to better help patients in the future and guide what you want to do as a career as well.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think alongside what both of you have said, it's quite a nice opportunity to just pick sometimes an area of medicine or even outside of medicine that might be related to how you could be a better doctor in the future, and go away to an area that you might have never ever considered going, something very different from your medical school or the demographics of it. So I completely agree. Where can anyone go for their elective?
Literally anywhere in the world, really, is the simple answer. I did mine in the Hull York Medical School patch. I did mine in Hull Royal Infirmary. I think you said you went down to London, didn't you, for yours? Lots of my colleagues went abroad, went to the Philippines, went to America, Malta, and everybody has got a different experience from their elective, and that's really, really good because you can then sort of share those experiences and, spur each other on, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, like you said, I went to London for mine, which was a very, very different demographic to Hull York. And I got to do it in neonatology, which is not something we, unfortunately, due to COVID at the time, got to experience at medical school itself. And I did a mixed research and clinical elective for mine as well, which meant got to work with a lot of different London neonatology centres and beyond London, in fact. That was a very new and interesting experience for me.
Yeah.
To expand my horizons beyond a certain geography.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you're looking and you sat at home and you're looking to study medicine, the elective is a time, and it comes later in the Hull York Medical School programme because you'll have acquired a lot more skills in your studies by then. And people do often talk outside of medicine or inside of medicine about what electives involve, and often people speak about going to around the world. But I and in my role now, I'm very keen to make sure that if it's not something you want to go abroad or you want to go too far, that you can do this very much in the local area, and we will support that. And it'd be very much a time when you can pick something that you want to do, that benefits you, And we do appreciate, obviously, when you're planning an elective, it can be, as you quite rightly put it, in all these areas in the world, which we support. Largely, we could go into the caveats on that, but obviously it has to be safe and secure for students to go. But I would very much emphasise that if it's something that you're looking at medical school, and we all have, I can still remember a long time ago when you're looking at it from yourself, it's a big degree, there's a lot of involvement in it, so it's not something I would emphasise that you have to go away for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that, definitely. I mean, I considered doing my elective abroad, lots of other factors at play. Financially, I wasn't in a position to afford that, and just like what you said, that's not what's expected. You're not expected to spend £8,000 on your elective. That's not realistic. No one can afford, not everybody can afford that, and that shouldn't disadvantage students either. Say I did mine in Hull Royal Infirmary, which was part of the Hull York Medical School patch, and it was honestly such an amazing experience. I learnt so much. I spent 6 weeks just in the A&E department, which is what I want to do as a career, and it really helped solidify that is what I want to do. I integrated myself more into the team than what I would do when I was on placement, got really involved with some of the complex clinical cases, getting involved with all the skills, and that's really actually helped me throughout 5th year as well. We do our electives at the start. It's really helped me because I've become so much more competent doing those skills and integrating myself a little bit more into the team, and as well understanding some of the challenges that the local area has. That's where I'm going to be starting my F1, and knowing some of those challenges, whether that's to do with the ambulance service, the A&E department, the NHS as a whole, knowing those different difficulties actually helps you become a better doctor as well, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I think kind of mentioning on the point that you could go anywhere for your elective, I think the medical school has a lot of support in place for when you are picking your elective. They're very understanding that these things take time, and that sometimes plans don't always go as one hopes. I personally had an elective planned abroad, and that didn't go through. I had to change it quite last minute, but the medical school was very supportive, and if there was any difficulties with financial support as well, there are a lot of bursaries out there outside of medical school as well, and within that can support it. And I personally applied for a few, did win a research elective bursary as well, which really helped support my process of living in London, which is very expensive sometimes. So there's a lot of support, and just dropping an email to the electives department within the medical school is all you need to really get some help out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. And I know you mentioned you learnt a lot about the Hull York acute care pathway. What would you say are your biggest learning experiences moving forward as a doctor?
I think particularly if I want to do A&E, and I think it's very easy to look at A&E as a medical student and go, oh my God, it's so exciting all of the time. And, you're saving lives 24/7, and the reality that wasn't the case. And I think that's what I learned from my elective, wanting to go into A&E. Some of it is about holding someone's hand and guiding them through what is a particularly scary experience if you sat in an A&E department, you don't unfamiliar surroundings. And I think that's one key thing I learned from my elective, as well as understanding some of the stresses of an A&E department, and trying to integrate yourself really into that team, and just knowing how different teams across the hospital run down to A&E and work together to help those really, really poorly patients in that time, whether it's through, they've come in cardiac arrest or they've had a car accident. And it's really, really amazing just to see the integration of work between the anaesthetists, the trauma team, the ED staff, and that was honestly fantastic. And that was in the hospital that I've been doing a placement in, but I just didn't get that experience through the curriculum. Spending that 6 weeks just in that department was fantastic, just that added experience.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, it's brilliant to see the enthusiasm and the benefit you've gained from it, and that as Hull York Medical School we want to get people to achieve is the benefit. And you mentioned some challenges, and I would say that we work the people who I work with are very, very supportive. They're a fantastic team. And when there are challenges, and if you sat there again, because I realise this is, again, you may be sat thinking about what medicine is and what it involves, and it can seem very overwhelming. If there's issues with finance, we'll support and guide people through. And again, it goes back to the point, and I would emphasise that you will not have a different experience, as you've said, from being local to whether you go abroad. If it's what you want to do and it's been driven by you, the benefit is huge.
Because when you're at medical school, you've got a lot of deadlines to work with as well. You're learning a lot of new content, so you're trying to juggle a lot of things at one time. But during the elective is the one time you have to just be part of the team for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, even if you want to be there for longer and go into any sort of field that you really want to. I know friends who went to prisons to observe patients and there, or went to do acupuncture or any physiotherapy even, just see a different part of healthcare. So it can really be as varied as you'd like it to be, or it could be a very specific department like Cameron and I did, but it is very much about what you put into it, that's what you get out of it. So I know that we got to come back at medical school and present our electives to everyone within the year group, which was a very lovely way to see what other people had done, kind of learn from their experiences, and kind of feel proud of the year group for being able to go to such a variety of places, and share the findings with us. What about you? How did you find kind of speaking about your elective when you got back?
Yeah, I thought it was really, really good. Just seeing, colleagues that went to places like, the Philippines, which has a very different healthcare to the UK, and seeing their views on a place that they've never been before, a healthcare system they've never been in before, and sharing those experiences, how difficult it was. In the UK, if you're poorly, you can walk straight into hospital and you'll be seen straight away. And in different areas of the world, from their experiences, that might not be the case, and it's difficult as a clinician to watch that. And some of those experiences were fascinating to listen to. And obviously my own experiences in Hull Royal, I spoke about when I was reflecting on my experience as a particular night that was extremely difficult, probably the most difficult time I've had at medical school from an emotional point of view. There was 3 patients that sadly died in one shift, and that's the first time I've really, really been affected by that. But having that experience has actually made me probably a better doctor, knowing that how to deal with that experience, how it affected me, and reflecting on that, and reflecting on some of the challenges that each of those patients had throughout their journey. It was really interesting to discuss with other colleagues. Yeah.
And I remember you kind of sharing that experience when you came back from your elective, and I remember finding it quite moving because it was very different to what I had. I was working with very premature babies, and because mine was a mix of research and clinical, the main thing that I got out of it was that I really truly got to see the impact of research on clinical care, because I was doing my research on stoma, temporary stomas in neonates, but not getting to see any neonates. And being at this placement meant I got to see what families experience when their 32-week-old premature baby was having a stoma inserted, and it was very moving.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that you don't necessarily get to experience during the curriculum. I certainly haven't anyway, and because I was so involved in the team, we were involved in this discussions with the family afterwards on that particular night, and that was again really, really moving, and really I reflected a lot from that, involved with the discussion with the wife and the family about what had sadly happened, and that's something I'd not experienced during medical school, sat there actually having that sad discussion, but I learned so much moving forward, and being able to have that discussion moving forward, feeling the confidence as well to have that discussion with family members as a doctor, as a clinician.
And kind of looking back at your elective experience, is there anything that you...
No, I think that brings into something very important, because you may be looking to study medicine because you already know the sort of career you want to do. You've said emergency medicine, you may want to do something in surgery, or it's a huge career that medicine opens the door to. And I think certainly when I was earlier on in my career, I knew I wanted to do surgery, and actually the elective really does afford you the opportunity to get access to a specialty that may be not represented normally in the medical degree as such. So, in cardiothoracic surgery, it's not somewhere where you would be regularly allocated to, but this allows you to actually take the opportunity and choose to get yourself immersed in the specialty. And that's what I would say I got out of my elective because it set off. It enables you to form good relationships with colleagues. It enables you to potentially take on extra projects that might not be the clinical work. And I was sat there listening with a lot of pride actually to see what the professional development it brings about, and that's what we want to achieve. So I think what you can achieve is the benefit in terms of your studies, but there's very much a bigger scope to extend that well beyond medical school.
Yeah, I think being a medical student is very much more than just passing those exams and getting that, you know, degree certificate at the end. It is about the bigger picture and becoming a future doctor, a future clinician, and being involved with patients. That's what a doctor is, and that elective does give you that really, really good experience to get that integration, not just, you know, sit with your head in a book or just focus on the passing the exam part of medical school. It gives you such more of an opportunity to have a bigger scope.
And we do see that. So with the presentations you talked about, you see people, because they're so interested in that area, it immerses them in that experience. They get the professional development you talk about, but also personal development. You talked about the challenges you faced, and this is something, because when you're very interested in it, and that's what we encourage you to do, then it's a natural thing almost to immerse yourself more in that area, and I think it can be very invaluable longer term.
Yes, so. Completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it was a very enjoyable experience overall, doing the elective. Probably one of my most enjoyable experiences of medical school. And I will always stay in touch with the clinicians and all the tutors that I worked with during my time over there. And I'm sure I would be hopefully welcome if I ever went back there again.
On that point, I'm just a tiny part of a wonderful team that delivers the electives, and they really do advocate for students. And what I would say is, if you're thinking or you've got worries in terms of you would look to go abroad, but you don't have you're not familiar with what you would need to do to travel, again, that's something we'll support, and we're actually working on that for this year, because obviously we've had a few years that's been heavily disrupted by COVID. So things are progressing all the time, and what I would say is, if you've got an ambition to do something that will, and again what we look at is, will it bring about professional and personal development, and if that's something you can show, then we'll be supportive, and I think you both very eloquently put that these experiences can really have a long-lasting impact.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. Professional personal development is definitely the key phrase there. It's not about the science, it's not about the medicine, it is about the development of you as a person and as a clinician for the 30 years you're going to spend as a doctor. That 6-week period, could change things really and grow yourself.
Absolutely, and you can generally do it in any area of healthcare that you like, or even a bit beyond it if it's going to help you in your future.
Definitely.
So don't have to worry about being at a specific hospital for that.
Yeah. And you definitely don't need to worry about it in first year going, oh my God, I don't know what department I want to be in. That's why the electives are generally done at the end of medical school across the country, because through the first 4 years of medical school, it gives you a chance to see those departments, see the things you like, see the departments you might not like so much, and then you might be able to try and pick your elective from there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And don't feel there are any barriers in terms of, as we've emphasised, through means or because you don't know people in a particular specialty. I'm very much of the view that we should encourage and we look to support and find supervisors for people who maybe don't, who maybe have an interest in a particular area but don't feel they have the, I know I use the word contacts, but don't feel they can. So we're very much there to support, and if there's something you feel you want to do, then that should be pursued, and we'd be really supportive of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming in, speaking at the podcast today about the electives. We really hope you find it useful, and please go and find more podcasts on the Hull York Medical School website if you want to find out more about the medical school. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.